I'd like you to meet some new friends of mine, Shadow Rabbits. As read directly from their bio, Shadow Rabbits is a Kansas City-based collaboration between singer-songwriter Ashley DeTola and multi-instrumentalist filmmaker Jon and Ashley. If you've heard of them, then you've probably seen at least one of the music videos they've put out from a track off their debut EP, Truest Blue. Or perhaps you've seen the visually stunning music video they created for Clinic's track Cement Mixer. Or maybe, just maybe, you stumbled across their very unique ALS Ice Bucket Challenge video. Remember that viral video challenge from 2014? Yeah, Shadow Rabbits managed to summon up the mindset of Stanley Kubrick for their video contribution. Or, on the other hand, perhaps you've not heard of Shadow Rabbits, and that's okay, for now. So assuming that at this exact minute you are not driving a car, or doing something that needs your full undivided attention, I want you to do something for me. Go to the internet, and type in followshadowrabbits.com. Again, that is followshadowrabbits.com. Once you're there, click the play button located on the lower left-hand side of the screen. I'll wait. So what you think? That was a pretty rad short film, no? I personally think it is, especially considering the fact that it came from a group that formed a little under a year ago, who only have one EP out, and who, as you'll hear in today's episode, have developed their visual and filmmaking skills through passion and no formal training.
I've always been interested in like set design and movie makeup and stuff, but I mean, I'd never done anything at a professional capacity or anything.
It's becoming more and more important for independent working musicians to have a secondary or even tertiary skill set that can tie back into their primary objective: writing songs, recording songs, and playing shows. It's even more interesting when the music isn't the primary objective of an artist's creative outlet, but somehow, just somehow, they get led back into that path while pursuing other creative platforms.
We didn't really go into it thinking that we were going to start a band necessarily.
That was the main topic for discussion when I had Jon and Ashley in to talk about the missing chapters which played out to form the creative project titled Shadow Rabbits. But as you'll hear throughout the various chapters of this episode, as our conversation develops, we get deep into a lot of other interesting topics that make up their story. So here we go. Missing chapters, missing chapters, missing chapters.
Chapter 1.
So that was your third show. So your first show was right before middle, and your second show was middle, and this was your third show.
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy. We feel fortunate like that we've been asked to play these big fests because not a lot of people know of us yet. Mm-hmm. We've only been together for like 6 months or so. So yeah, it's just been really cool.
Yeah, and the first show was pretty much a practice show for Middle of the Map too, because that was really that Middle of the Map was our first show, our first real show. So
we're like, we better
That's
get something
in
before we just get up in front of Middle of the Map. So
yeah, especially when we're learning. A whole mess of new material and stuff just to get ready for a show. So
and everyone else in the band has been in previous projects, and this is my first one ever. So I've literally never performed on stage, so I was a little freaked out, but I think it went really well.
Yeah, it did. I saw you guys in middle. I unfortunately didn't get to make it out to the Lawrence Field Day Fest, but I know you guys played on Record Machine Showcase.
Yeah.
With Via Luna and tons of other good bands.
Yeah, that was a really fun show.
It was. That was a blast.
Yeah, had a great time on that one. But yeah, so hopefully have one more show sometime in October. I think we're going to try to book one, maybe in one more this fall or something. And then get ready for next year, I think. Kind of see what comes next year. So
you just planning on doing like a full length next? Another EP up in the air?
Yeah, it's been, I would love to do a full length album. It's kind of one of those things where nowadays with the music industry, it doesn't really make sense to release anything more than an EP, especially when you're a new band starting out and you don't really have that much of a following. I think if we were to kind of do a full length, which we definitely want to do, it'd be just more of just something for us rather than just trying, because it's not very viable to record a full length album and then put a promotion in, because it's a lot of work. And the only time I've ever done it was with my previous band, and there's a whole team of people you got to get involved with it, and it's a lot of work to do it. And we're just kind of at that stage right now where I think releasing music in the capacity that we're doing, with just kind of with the one album that we have, the EP, we did it online. I mean, it's worked really well for us because there's just really no kind of put it out there, and then it's easy to circulate, and it's only 4 songs, so it's easy for people to kind of digest. But yeah, I'd love to do a full length, but we're just kind of feeling it out right now, seeing where this whole thing's going. I think.
And we have a bunch of material that we're working on right now. Like I think we have 5 songs that are partially complete. So I mean, we're hoping to get at least 3 completely done soon and get them out there for people to hear. And we have an idea for another music video that we want to start at the end of the summer too, which is something we love to do.
Yeah, actually, that's what John was telling me, that Shadow Rabbits, and correct me here if I'm wrong, started off as kind of an equal amount of effort between film and music, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess the whole project pretty much started with, we didn't really go into it thinking that we were going to start a band necessarily. Like Ashley and I've known each other for 3 years now, and we started out just doing different kind of creative things together. First thing we ever really big project we did was a music video. We kind of went into it thinking it was going to be a photo shoot. Then we went out and Shawnee Mission Park and shot like a music video. It was just kind of like on the fly. We ended up putting the song Cement Mixer by Clinic behind it, and kind of had this music video and put it online, and it kind of got circulated. The band Clinic actually picked it up and posted it on their page, and so we got kind of excited about it. We're like, hey, let's do another music video. And at the time, we weren't thinking about starting a band or anything. It was this kind of idea for Truest Blue, the music video that we have out. She'd kind of written a melody line and sent it to me, and it had that kind of like 50s like doo-wop vibe to it. And I kind of like used it and was messing around with something musically with it. But like I said, we didn't really have a big idea for a project. We were just like, well, let's take this and make this video, and we could release that. And then, we'll call ourselves Shadow Rabbits just so we seem like we have a band name or something. But then I think halfway through the process of doing the video, we had some other songs we were kind of working on at the time. And it just was like, well, let's just release an EP and see what happens with that. And then it just kind of snowballed, I guess, and we ended up releasing another video within a couple months, and then got asked to play Middle of the Map. So we're like, okay, well, let's get a live band together and kind of see what happens, with that. And so it's just become something that we didn't initially expect it to become. We just thought it was going to be a fun project between the two of us. But yeah, now we're playing shows, and it's something completely different. But it's been a fun journey so far, the short journey that's been.
Yeah, it has been. Been crazy.
It's really interesting to me. So you indicated that the Clinic music video was on the fly, and that's a super dope music video, by the way. All the animation and everything that goes on. Yeah. And then you guys just kind of put together some songs for the EP, which is amazing too. Yeah. That's really cool because you guys are really focusing in on the art, and to me that's what's kind of driving the music, and the end product is just amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think we had a discussion about it earlier too, where I think we started to toy around with the idea of forming this sort of musical project that we could, we're in the initial phases of it, we could kind of control the whole visual aspect of it too, kind of going into it clean. Like nobody really knew who we were. So we could kind of release these videos that were sort of like have Ashley kind of play these characters in these videos, and we could do like photo shoots together. And we had the ability to do that, and I have a lot of talented friends too that are willing to help us out with these projects.
Yeah, we're lucky in that sense. All of our friends, like his friend Lennon, works at a studio, so he like let us come in and helped us out. I mean, we have a lot of friends that are musicians, actors, all that stuff. So we're like, hey, can you help us? And everyone got in on it. Yeah. It was really cool.
So we can kind of create with their help, this whole like visual complement to the music too. And that's why I was telling you that I think that we kind of went into it wanting to put equal effort into the visual aspect as well as the music. So it's not really just one or the other. It's kind of, and I mean, we've toyed around with the ideas of even just doing like a short film sometime, and kind of tying in Shadow Rabbits music into it somehow, and just like different stuff like that. So it's not really, I think we're taking a little bit of a different approach to it, is just like, oh, let's just, make an album and try to go on tour and stuff like that. We're just kind of seeing it more of a creative outlet.
Our band is a cover for us just wanting to do all of these projects. We don't actually want to be a band. No, I'm kidding.
And it's nice too when you're starting out like this, there's no pressure on you to do anything or to be anything specific because we don't really we haven't established that part of us yet. So
Right.
like this part's fun because it's like we can kind of just do whatever we want, and there's no, and if people like it, they like it, and they don't, they don't. There's no pressure on us to like really be something specific, I guess.
Yeah, like the first video, we were like, oh, we both love horror films, so we're kind of like, it'd be cool since the song's kind of eerie and doo-woppy, has that weird vibe. We're like, we could make sort of like a horror video for it. And then the second one, like we love film noir. We're like, let's make a film noir video. And I don't know, I think I want to keep doing that. Just taking things that we're interested in and somehow mixing the music in with it.
Yeah, and then I mean the idea that we have for our next video, without giving anything away, I mean it's different than what we've done before. It's different, completely different vibe. And so, but that's what's kind of cool about it is we can do that now. And there's not going to be, we have like 200 fans on Facebook, so nobody's going to be like,
No
wait, this
one's
doesn't sound like your other stuff,
No one's worried about that.
Yeah, so and it's kind of cool, like in a way, like, you want to kind of keep it that way too. So it's like you just have that freedom to do what you're able to do. Because I mean, I've been in musical projects before that have established a certain sound and a certain fan base, and if you do stray from it, people it becomes a thing. It's like, well, this doesn't sound like your other stuff, and this doesn't. So yeah, I think we're just going to try to like milk that opportunity right now to really just do as much different kind of out there things as we can. And
yeah, it's kind of like the curse of the sophomore record, right? Is it going to sound
Exactly,
like
yeah.
the first release?
Yeah. Hopefully we never get to that point where we have that
Don't
pressure
scare
on
us.
have any pressure on us to do that. We can
that's
just
cool.
kinda
I mean,
keep it
'cause-
like
Yeah.
a low key sort of deal,
Right. And I mean, fans eventually get over it. You have like the super hardcore
sure.
fans, and they'll get over that. As long as I think as long as they can see the musical progression, and as long as the release is kind of like a cohesive idea,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think they can always get behind it. Yeah, I was gonna have that initial onslaught of what?
Yeah.
What is this?
And I mean, I'm guilty of it too, listening to bands like I'll discover on Spotify I've never heard before. And, there is, I think, a couple examples recently. I got into Porches recently, and then Andy Schaaf are the two artists I got into, and heard their more recent albums, which kind of have a certain defined sound. And then you go listen to their older stuff, and you're like, this is totally different. It's not. So it's harder to get into it because you have like go into it with a preconceived idea of
Right.
who they are. But yeah, so even as somebody who makes stuff, like I still have trouble like accepting the idea that other creative people who make stuff like obviously evolve too. So
right.
you have to like. It's tough to cope with that, I guess. But
That's a hard thing to explain to a fan. Like, okay, these set of songs, and then you're playing them for almost every night for a year. You just want to try something different. You just want to, go to a major key instead of staying in minor the whole time, or just try something different.
yeah, I mean, we've only done 3 shows, and I think we're already wanting to do like like we're kind of like over the songs that we're playing already.
Every time we're going to a practice, we're just like, oh God, I don't want to go practice
to play the
this
same
anymore.
songs over and over again. Yeah, we're already trying to write a bunch of new stuff and get it incorporated because it's we've been doing it for 6 months, and that's another crazy thing too. Is say we had been doing this for 3 years, for somebody who had just started listening to us, to them, we've been doing it for, a couple months.
Right.
They don't see that. A lot of these bands out there, like they've been playing the same songs for years and years and years. And, all the shows they play, then all the practices. And I could only imagine how tired they would get of playing a lot of that stuff, but they go out and do it. And
Yeah, I just saw like Weezer this past week at Starlight, and I kind of saw the same thing. They were trying to get in their new material, and people,
Right.
of course, they love Weezer,
Yeah.
so they're dancing. But then they start playing stuff from their Blue album,
Yeah.
and people just go nuts.
Say It Ain't
and I'm
So,
like, you
Sweater
have
Song.
to be so sick of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. That's a great album, but yeah, that's scary.
yeah, I think the best way to do it is just do it like Portishead did and disappear for like a decade and then come back, and then so you only have 2 albums that span like 2 decades basically.
We had joked about that in the beginning. We were like, let's just create a band that only plays a show once a year, and then and just disappears completely and then reemerges with some new music. And
Yeah, it would be fun. Of course, then it'd be nerve-wracking because you have that one show a year that you have to. That's, as much as we love playing shows, it's like I feel like we're trying to get more shows in now just to get practice. And
yeah.
I mean, we love the 3 shows that we played so far, but it's like, man, we need to play more. Like, just
to get your name out there,
Yeah.
so more people know about you too.
Yeah, get your name out, just being comfortable playing with everyone on
Yeah.
a stage. Way different than down, in a practice area.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Our first show was at a record store, and then like I said, I'd played, the guys that are playing our band, the backup, our whole project are guys that I played with for years and years, so we're pretty comfortable. But Ashley's never played with not just those guys, but anybody. This is her first time singing on stage, and I think we're all going into it a little nervous because we're even still learning new songs, and it's all kind of a new thing. So before the record store show, even though we knew it was going to be a small show, we're like, well, we should do something. We should do something like have like an open practice or like kind of like a party and just have friends come over and listen to us, just so we can kind of like get our feet wet before we just play a show. So we scheduled this. It was like a dress rehearsal show that nobody came to. Everybody like at the last minute canceled.
No one.
It was like on a Saturday night, and
We just decided to get really drunk, and then we what do you call it?
we live streamed it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we're
Okay.
like
That's good
just
plan B.
drunk playing.
Yeah, but it was like the week that Facebook, I think, started the live stream thing. So we're
Right.
like, oh, let's try this. And it's crazy because even though there's nobody there, you still feel that same pressure.
Yeah.
It's like, you put it on live. I'm sure probably maybe 1 or 2 people like tuned in for like 30 seconds to watch it. But
My mom.
yeah, definitely, her mom definitely watched it, and I think maybe like one other person watched it. But you have this, you're putting that pressure on yourself, and it's like simulating being on stage almost.
Yeah.
Even though you can't see the faces that are watching you, but yeah, it was kind of a weird thing because we'd never done anything like that before. I guess the only other comparable thing would be doing like maybe a radio in like type thing, but yeah, it was really interesting to kind of like go from playing these songs just with the 4 of us, and then you put a camera in front of you that's being live streamed, and like I said, even though only 2 people are watching it, you're like, oh, okay. Now like you feel like nervous and like it was
I
weird.
was definitely dancing around a little more. Like the
Yeah.
guys were like getting into it a little more.
Right. You never know who's going to tune in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was funny to watch back.
And I think it is more nerve-wracking too when it is your people watching. Our first show, I think, was a lot more nerve-wracking than our other 2 shows because, one, it was our first show, obviously, but it was all of our friends and our parents. My parents, who live in Arizona, flew up to see it.
Oh, wow.
Her parents live in Wichita, and they drove up to see it. And then all of our friends are there, and it's just, as people that you know personally, I think it puts a lot more weight on.
Sure.
Yeah, what you're doing.
Absolutely.
I agree completely. That one was scary. Being my first show
Sure.
ever, and then also, yeah, the whole shop was just full with every single person we know.
And pretty much all, that was 90% of the people. Not to say that like there was enough people to like really divide it into like that percentage, but like most of the people there I think there was a couple people we didn't know, and then everybody else was, like recognizable faces, and it's really weird looking at.
Like, I have to face these people again. So.
And they're going to be the most critical too. For sure.
Absolutely.
We're the most critical of the ones that are like, yeah, it sounded great. You're like, yeah, well, it's kind of out of tune. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, tell me about that. I've always been curious about that Facebook stream. So do you do it on your phone or did you do it on like a laptop?
I think you do. Yeah, I'm sure you probably could do it on your laptop if you have the camera. But yeah, we did it on our phone. We like duct taped it to
Stairwell.
yeah, stairwell, because we weren't planning on doing it, so I didn't bring like any equipment. But we duct taped my phone to like a stairwell, and it streams through your camera on your phone.
It was perfect too. It died like the second we were done with
nice.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
You have
My phone's never charged, obviously. So.
You have to walk around and find like the best spot of sound in the room. I've always been curious about the live stream, like how they get the sound right.
Yeah, it just comes through the phone. The room that we play in sounds all right because it's like, like this, it's all carpeted and has a bunch of furniture in it. So, but I always feel like the phones nowadays, they think they sound decent enough to where, It's not going to sound professional, but you can at least decipher what's happening in some of the videos people take at concerts. Even, I mean, it just sounds just as good as if you got like one of those external recorders.
Yeah, like a bootleg version. Yeah, the compressors in these phones are pretty amazing.
Yeah. I think that's one of my favorite. I mean, the cameras are good and the microphones are pretty decent. So yeah, so they're not bad. I mean, we use them. I use our iPhones just to record. Well, actually, funny thing is all.
Wasting away, you've undone the man. Ooh, I wanna know when it's ending. Don't be afraid, just let it in. Ooh, I wanna know where you're going.
Chapter 2.
Well, actually, funny thing is all the vocals on our EP was recorded on an iPhone. Her vocals were. So
Yeah.
Not in a studio on an iPhone.
Yeah. She, because I mean, our writing process has changed a lot, or even recording process. But when we started out, I mean, I think you were a little uncomfortable, Ashley, kind of like recording vocals, in a studio, because it's a different thing. Like, when
completely.
you're sitting there with headphones on and you're singing into a mic, it just sounds weird. And
Yeah.
so the way we recorded the first EP was she would come up with her ideas and for vocal melodies and lyrics, and then she would record it on the voice memos on her iPhone, and then email them to me, and then I just took them and wrote or put music under it, basically. So all the stuff on the EP's recorded on iPhone. So
Wow.
Now I have a little fancy mic that I plug into my iPhone. Big time. But yeah, that is crazy.
It is super crazy.
Everything
Yeah,
is.
I didn't even think about that now until we were talking about that.
How technology, yeah. Imagine 10 years ago, no one would have thought
Yeah.
that would have been
Yeah.
possible at all.
Oh, it would have been, completely impossible.
That's crazy. You did the whole EP, or at least the vocals for the EP on a
Yeah.
phone. Gosh.
And it was a different writing process too. I think that's what kind of made it interesting and fun, was doing it that way. And now, I mean, this has been a year since we started doing those songs, I think. And now, like, we've changed our, now we write with each other. We sit down and write, and like I'll have a guitar. But yeah, before that, I mean, that just was a completely different process that we took to. But yeah, it's kind of evolving, and now we're kind of including like the guys that play in our band, like we're trying to do stuff more as a band, like writing that way too, and so it's kind of evolving even more like that. But yeah, that's because I think when we started doing it that way with the iPhone recordings, like I said earlier, the idea wasn't to have this like big musical project. It was like, well, let's just do something to get it out and, just release it. So I think there's less pressure to like do, now if we were to do it again, I think it would be a little bit more inclined to like professionally record the vocals or something, because now you're like, well, maybe more people are going to hear it, so let's do it that way. But at the time, it was just kind of like, well, let's just put it out. It's going to be something our friends and our family listen to, so who cares if it sounds, that great? They're not going to notice.
I don't know, man. I think it sounds really good, especially now
Thank
that you told me
you.
that little bit. Holy shit! You step up my recording game.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of those things too where, yeah, you wouldn't notice it unless you told somebody. I mean, I've
Right.
heard stories like, what's that, the Foster the People's song, the Pumped Up Kicks? I mean, that was like a demo he did. Like, it was I think, I don't want to say this because I don't know if it's true, but I think it was something like recorded on a phone or something. Like, it was like and they took it and put it in the studio and just like put a couple instruments on it, but you don't notice that stuff unless somebody says it to you.
Right.
So it kind of just boils down to, if it sounds good when you do it, there's no point in like going and redoing it, And her vocals sounded good when she sent them to me. I didn't have to like really mess with them or anything. It just, I was able to kind of find the tempo of it, and then I had to kind of chop them up a little bit here and there just to make it fit the verses. But I mean, it sounded good the way it was. Put like a little bit of reverb on it, and yeah, that's all we did.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. And the drums are the only thing that we did in the studio, I think.
Yeah, everything else was at home. We did them ourselves.
With it was just the iPhone, and then all the guitars were recorded like on I have this little like Vox practice amp that's like probably 12 inches long that for some reason sounds good when you put like this certain reverb pedal in front of it. It doesn't sound good otherwise, but if you like use this one, it just sounds like good. And then you have to use a specific mic too. It's like this weird thing, but yeah, for some reason it sounds good, and so we just do it that way, and it's super easy. And
Nice. So with the backing band now, giving some of their input, is it changing the sound? Is it modifying it from, since you two originally wrote the EP, right?
yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. We haven't really done a whole lot with the band. I mean, the band's changed the sound, I think, a little bit live for some of the other songs. I mean, some of them we play live, and I feel like they sound exactly like the recording. And then some of them, I think with having a different drummer and a live drummer, that probably changes the feel of it a little bit. But I don't know. I don't really think so. I mean, a lot of it starts with us still. So even these new songs that we're doing, it's pretty well established going into it. So I think the input that they give us is more of just filling out their individual parts maybe at this point. But like I said, we don't really know how it's going to happen in the future too. So like, it's just kind of evolving still.
Yeah, I think with the songs that we've started now, we're definitely staying true to kind of the mood of what we did originally. It's definitely still dark, eerie sounding music, lyrically also. But I think some of it is starting to sound a little heavier, like a little more rock, especially when we're playing live.
Yeah, because it's, with the recordings, they were made to sound like recordings from the eras of the music that we were trying to imitate at the time.
Right.
So, I think when we went in and did some of these songs, so our drummer Ryan, he had played on a couple of the tracks on our EP, and even he was, we kind of talked about, well, back in the 60s when they would have recorded this, this is how they would have had the microphone set up. So we like try to imitate the microphone setups, and he actually switched his style of playing to the more traditional style, like grip of playing, just to kind of imitate that style. Now, when we play it live, it's different. It's more, I think, of a modern sound, probably. But yeah, in the recording process, it was more of like trying to stick pretty true to what we were trying to imitate. But yeah, I think with incorporating these guys now in the writing process, they're pretty tied to our idea and kind of vision of what we were trying to do, I think.
Yeah.
So, and they were pretty adamant. I mean, we asked them to do this, but, you know, a lot of it was when we played them the demos before we released the EP, they were like really into it. And they had these kind of, you know, they would kind of relay to us their ideas. Well, you know, this sounds like you're kind of trying to mix like a 50s doo-wop tune with like 80s like horror aesthetic. And so we're like, well, you know that, like, you know, I didn't have to say that to you, like you got it.
Right.
So I feel like they're kind of like pretty much on the same page, and they want to kind of like be on the same page, and you know.
Yeah, that's what's been great is they were all so into it and understood, you know, the vision of what we were trying to do, and were completely into it. So everything just came really naturally and easily, which isn't always the case.
Yeah, very rarely the case.
Yeah. They're just like, man, this is so cool. Like, what if I did this right here? And we're like, that would be awesome. Like, let's do it. So that's kind of how it's all been, thankfully.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it's not like we're trying, like we're very open to other people's ideas.
Oh, absolutely.
Too,
Yeah.
like, and I mean, I think that so far the way it's worked out is that, you know, we have this idea, and the initial idea stays true, but any input that goes into it is what molds it into what it is. So, like we keep our minds open to all that, and I mean, even with the music videos that we've done, and some of the songs that we've been writing, like, I mean, what kind of gives it its character is the input of other people that have been helping along the way. But the original concept is still pretty true to like what we kind of go into it, the idea that we go into it with. So
That must have been really rewarding and refreshing when you showed them the tracks and they immediately saw and heard the same thing you guys were going after.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was surprising. I mean, that's definitely something that I don't, because sometimes, I mean, like I say, years have been playing music, you know, you play tracks for different people and they'll say something, well, this kind of sounds like this, and you're kind of like, what?
Really?
Like, I don't know where you're getting that from, but I guess so far, I mean, people seem like they kind of get I mean, maybe it's just obvious in the way it sounds, but yeah, they seem like they kind of latch on to the what we're going for. So that's awesome for sure. Yeah.
Were you guys influenced by late night callers at all?
No. I played a show with late night callers years ago, but maybe inadvertently influenced.
Yeah, because when I heard your guys' stuff, that was what I immediately went to.
Okay.
Because they kind of have that noir sound, I
Yeah,
guess, to
yeah.
kind of not really generalize them, but yeah, that was kind of, I was like, because I'm a huge fan of them, and I heard you guys, I was like, oh, this is awesome, because they just stopped playing, right?
Well, this was
Yeah.
because I know they used to play a lot. And
Yeah.
I haven't seen them around for a while, so I didn't know if they were still doing things. Or
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they're broken up. So
Yeah.
it's cool. You guys are kind of taking the torch, running with it.
Yeah.
in a
We'll
sense.
take
In a
it.
sense. But yeah, tell me about Truest Blue. So did the idea, the concept for the music video happen, or did the song happen first, or was it at the same time?
I think the song came first.
Yeah, it was a song I wrote the lyrics to, and I had sang like a little demo on my phone and sent it to him, and he was like, this is really cool. And then he put music behind it, and yeah, it just took shape, and then we started coming up with ideas for the video. Like, I've always been a huge fan of doo-wop, so I don't know, that's what influenced me to write it. And
What was that movie that we kept referencing to that like, was it it's in the 90s, I think, that about the girl who dies in the car accident?
oh yeah, was it Susie Q? It was like a teeny bopper
Sure.
movie
Yeah.
about a girl who dies in a car wreck on her way to prom, and we're like, man, we could take that but put like a horror spin on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, because I mean, I felt like too in the 80s, because obviously, if you watch the video, it kind of has an 80s like vibe to it, but with like a lot of the synth parts and stuff that kind of play into the song. But I feel like in the 80s they had kind of a weird obsession with like 50s culture. Like there was a lot of movies that came out in the 80s where they would like reference 50s culture but kind of bastardize it in a way
That
and make
is
it
true.
and like add kind of a horror element to it.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, like Back to the Future was a movie that like like played big into the like that vibe, and then there's a lot of horror movies that did the same thing too. So yeah, we just kind of wanted to do something like that. I mean, because I've always kind of liked movies like that, so we just thought, wait, we could probably do this, and it definitely was a lot more work than we expected it to be. But
I was gonna say, talk to me about that, because that music video was amazing. Like the way you fly through the window, and then you have like the holograms playing at the end.
It was a lot of work.
yeah, a lot of it. I mean, I think when we first started shooting it, I don't know if we had the full video in mind, like what we were doing. So we kind of like had sort of half of the story to the point where you died, and I don't know what in the video. And I think beyond that, we were kind of like, well, we don't know what we'll do. We'll figure it out later. And then,
Yeah, it was several. The shoots took.
It was a lot
like
of shoots.
Yeah, over a month. And like one day we fortunately had a guy let us use his vintage car, and we were like, we won't leave your driveway, we promise. So we shot all the car stuff there, and we had to just do take after take after take to make sure, because we only had that one day with the car. So if we didn't get it all done, we were kind of screwed. And then, the hardest part was probably doing the makeup and trying to make it look the same every time. Took a lot of work.
Yeah, we've learned a lot about like filmmaking,
Movie makeup.
going into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, so you guys went into that just knowing just like a little bit about filmmaking?
Yeah. I mean, that was that was kind of our. I mean, I've kind of messed with like video effects and stuff, like After Effects, and for a while, but nothing serious. Really, that and the clinic video were the two like first like videos that were like really like were pushing to do something, because before that, like, it was just like kind of messing around here and there.
Yeah.
I don't think that we really had I didn't have a whole lot of experience doing it.
And-
I've always liked that kind of stuff, but I didn't really have a whole lot of experience doing
And
it.
I've always been interested in like set design and movie makeup and stuff, but I mean, I'd never done anything at a professional capacity or anything.
Right.
So it was kind of fun toying around with everything and figuring out like how to make the scars on our faces. And
Yeah.
I think one night at like 3 a.m, we wanted to make fake glass. So we get online and we look up how to make fake glass, and we're in our kitchen doing it. And
We're drunk, by the way.
yeah, we're usually drunk when we're doing all this. Just a little side note.
we looked up, because I remember watching documentaries about when they made movies. You could make like sugar glass,
right?
So it was you could, and I was like, well, I'm sure we could find the recipe online. And so like we looked up and like tried to make. I don't remember what went into it, but we tried to make it, and you have to like bake it, and it wasn't working. So then we went and found a picture or poster frame, and took the poster out of it and like smashed the glass and just threw it on the ground.
Yeah, because the whole idea behind making the fake glass is it was a scene where me and Jon Anthony, who played the male lead in it, it was when we had flown out of the car and we're like on the ground with shattered glass. We're like, we don't want to get cut up, so let's make fake glass. Well, then we ended up just throwing glass
Like
and
real glass.
like laying across
careful.
it. And just like, all right, we give up.
Yeah, and our neighbor came out too. She was not happy.
We got in a little trouble.
Because we're like, there's all this, and because we think we had like a fog machine going. It was out in our driveway, and we had like our lights, and I didn't realize it was like 3 a.m. either. It's just one of those things you lose track of time. And we had lights and like fog machines going, and like we're breaking glass, and like she's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, I'm in this huge vintage dress, and I have death makeup on, and it's just like, what's going on?
And we're going all Pollock with like fake blood too.
He's out there with the paintbrush just splattering us.
Blood everywhere, and yeah, it was a weird sight for sure. I'm sure it was. Yeah, but that's what's kind of cool about it. Like, I mean, we've done 3 videos now, including the clinic video, and we're still learning about it, and that's what's kind of fun about it. It's the approach that we take is kind of that same approach that when you're kids and you're trying to make like videos with your friends, like get your like parents' camcorder. And I think we're kind of taking the same approach. Like, we're not necessarily trying to make it look super realistic or professional, but we're just trying to make it like kind of fun and different.
Make our
and,
ideas happen
Yeah.
however we can. We'll get
exactly.
them done.
And then the second video we shot, Kill What You Love, that was a completely different experience. I mean, we shot everything in one day and got it edited in like a week, and it was just a whole different type of approach that we took to it. So
That one's kind of like a short story, right?
yeah, that was
Yeah.
a little bit of a short film.
Yeah, it actually made it into the middle of the map short film viewing, which was really cool.
Yeah, well, that's how we got into the middle of the map in the first place. Is Nathan from the Record Machine? I sent him because we were wanting to put it in like a film festival or something, and we didn't know of anything, and that was coming up. I saw him post they had an open submission for films for the middle of the map, and so I Facebooked him and was like, hey, like I want to submit this, and he goes, oh yeah. He's like, well, would your band want to play it too? And I was like, I didn't tell him at the time. I was like, we don't have a band. But yeah, we'll play it. That's fine. And then I told Ashley, and she started freaking out. She's like, oh, God. Well, we had 3 months to prepare. So it was like, she's like,
I'm like, okay, let's do it.
We're doing this.
It's
So I'm asking
happening.
my friends. I was like, well, they want us to play middle of the map, but we don't have a band. So do you want to play with us? And they're like, oh, yeah. And so yeah, it was that was a stressful 3 months trying to get ready for it. But yeah, I don't even think we ended up. We actually weren't even able to go to the showing of our thing either because we both got sick on that day.
Oh, yeah.
The video, yeah, we both got like the stomach flu. So
Oh, no.
That was great.
so all of that was kind of like leading up because we were excited about getting our film in it, and then all of this was like leading up to us just wanting to see our film on a big screen, and then couldn't even to see it.
Instead, we're hugging the toilet bowl and
Yeah. A week before we're supposed to play it.
Yeah.
So we're like freaking out about that too.
So with film, when you're shooting a music video and you kind of go into it with an open mind and with a relatively probably solid game plan, is it kind of like music where you shoot something and you watch the playback and it just when you just know when it's the right take? Or how does that process work? You just do as many as you can and that's all done in post?
Yeah, I think at first it's kind of when we first kind of did it, I mean, a lot of the stuff we did at first was a little bit different. So that clinic music video, I mean, it was kind of, since I think we were kind of new at it, we didn't really know what to do. There was not a lot of acting involved, and it was like, okay, you just sit here and make a face. We'll, and
be very docile and stare into the camera. I'm like, okay.
but that's definitely something that we're learning as we go. Yeah, I mean, you try to, I think that's another interesting point because we kind of started doing this saying, oh, we can totally make these videos with two people. And I think with a lot of I think you can, but I think that you start to realize why people use crews and stuff like that.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of these early music videos and stuff, I'm the one usually operating the camera and shooting, but she notices things that I would never see because I'm so preoccupied with other things.
Yeah, I have like major OCD, and I'll be like, I was facing this way in this shot, and then the next one I'm facing the other way. Like, we need to redo that.
Yeah,
I
whereas
notice
I
all
don't-
those little details.
Yeah, I don't notice like the continuity stuff as much, and so. But yeah, I mean, with the last one we did, it was the first one where I think there was like kind of more of acting involved. And yeah, it's tough. I mean, you have a limited time to shoot, and you kind of look back on these. You have to kind of gauge it while you're shooting it, but you kind of look back on your takes, and you have no. I don't have. We just look at it through the camera, like the little screen on the camera, so
Yeah.
you don't notice as many things. But yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like we've gone into the editing room and, definitely had moments where it's like, well, we didn't do that right.
Yeah, I had to go back and redo shots or like come up with something else to replace it
Yeah.
because there's just no way we could get that again.
Yeah. But I mean, there is an element to it. And I think when it applies to the recording process too, where it's the force limitation kind of scenario it will bring out more creativity. And if you've ever seen the documentary, I think, I can't remember. I'm not good at thinking of titles. It's the one with like Jack White and
Is it where it starts off and he's building a guitar on a porch?
yeah, I think so. It has like 3 different guitarists. I want to say it's like Jack White. I've only seen it was like an old roommate was watching it one time, and it was called I don't even remember who else was in it. I want to say it was like Jack White and like Jimmy Page maybe was in it too. It was like a bunch of different
Guitarist. The Edge from U2 was in it too.
Yeah,
I think that
I might have been making up the Jimmy Page thing. I don't know.
I know what you're talking about though. I don't remember the name of the film, but I do remember
Someone's
watching
gonna be listening to this podcast, and like screaming out the answers like it's Jeopardy or something.
Yeah. You can tweet at us. We'll put some corrections up.
But the point of the whole thing was Jack White had mentioned something very interesting and something that I've carried on because I think it was the only thing that I really remember from this documentary. Obviously, he said something about how when he's playing live shows, especially with White Stripes, because a lot of the stuff that they do is very simple. It's not very complicated musically. He says to kind of keep himself interested in the creative process, he'll force limitations upon himself. So like when he's playing live, I think he said something about like, he'll have a keyboard that he plays on like one part of a song, but like each show that he played, he kind of like moved it around to different locations. So he never got comfortable to where that keyboard was at. So when he like ran to the keyboard to play it, he had to still like keep his mind working, he wasn't going into like a zombie mode at any point.
The muscle memory, yeah.
And so when you're doing stuff like this, where you're very new at it, like we are, like new at making these videos and new at like recording these songs, at least in the process, this way that we've been recording them, there is that aspect to it that's not like we're not forcing those limitations upon ourselves. They're still there. So like, we go into the editing room and like we realize we've completely screwed up an entire shot. Like we didn't do it the way we thought. Well, then you have to be creative about how you incorporate that shot, or you have to edit it in a way that's probably not what you originally intended, but it ends up being cool in its own right. So yeah, and I think once you get to the point where you become better at things and it becomes more routine, then you start having to do the kind of like that forced limitation thing. But like I said, I've always kind of like kept that in my head, because I want to always take an approach to, whether it be like the music or movies or anything really, just take that approach where you're kind of doing something for the first time, instead of it becoming like a tired old like routine almost. So.
Sure. Yeah. That's what keeps it interesting, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stand by forever was such a lie.
Chapter 3. Chapter
So
3.
for Kill What You Love, explain to me, I've seen this shot in a couple music videos, and you guys do it as well, where the camera's focusing on one thing, then it pans, let's say like 180 degrees, and then someone enters the frame. Is that all set up, or is that post-production?
That was all different shots.
Okay.
So it was every time the camera pans, it's a completely different shot that we had to set up. In fact, I think, so when she's singing in the video, that was done in a completely different, we did that separately. And then all the stuff with all the other elements that were filmed in a complete, so there were two different shoots almost.
Okay.
We did it all in one day, but we only had Jon for so long, the actor who was in it. So he did all his stuff, and then we filmed her stuff separately with it. So, but yeah, just when you pan the camera, I think that you can cut it so it doesn't really look like
okay.
it's two different shots. But
Nice.
they did that in, what was it, movie Birdman, I think.
Yeah.
A lot. So
Yeah.
that's where we got the idea for it, because the director, who I'm not going to try to pronounce his name, was talking about that, because the movie's made to look like it's all one shot, but
Yeah, one
it's
continuous.
done in, there's no way you can do it in one shot. You'd have to do it in separate takes.
So are you guys just consistently trying to like pull knowledge out of films that you see to incorporate into new things?
Oh yeah, I mean, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we both get inspired by, we go see movies a lot. In fact, I think we're going to probably go see one today. And of course, seeing concerts and stuff like that, that's how you get inspired for anything.
Right.
I think, is you go and see it, and it might not inspire you directly, like I want to make what they're doing, but just kind of seeing it, and you kind of get the itch to want to create stuff. And so, that's how we've learned to do everything, is just by watching other people and studying what other people do. And so, and I don't know with you, because with you, you've been like, when it comes to like the music part of it, singing, like, she's kind of picked that up on her own, like how to like perform on stage and stuff. And like, I don't know, because it's, like I said, we've only done 3 shows, and
Kind of just taking it as it comes.
step at a time,
Just
yeah.
whatever happens.
but I'm sure a lot of it probably comes from you seeing other people on stage.
Oh, absolutely.
And like kind of studying what they do.
Yeah,
Are you starting to feel more comfortable now up on stage?
I am.
Yeah?
I mean, there's still a lot of anxiety before every
Sure.
show, but that's just me personally too.
That
I
just
get
means you're
anxious
excited
over
about it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Well, it's like our bassist Keenan says, what he told us for our last show, he says, if you're not nervous before the show, then there's something wrong.
Yeah.
yeah.
There's truth to that.
Keenan's awesome at making me feel a little better. He's kind of like the
He always has like these little
voice of reason.
Yeah. He always
in our
has these like
band.
clever adages.
Yeah.
Before we perform. He's kind of like, he's super cool dude. He has like these kind of, he's like the old wise man though of the group.
Yeah, he's like, if you screw up tonight, it's gonna be the best screw up that's ever happened. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna
Nice.
be great.
So it is always nice to have like a cheerleader in the band, someone who's just pepping everybody up and
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
yeah, calming everyone down.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you guys are into horror movies?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What's favorite more horror movie of all time?
Oh man, yours is it The Shining?
Yeah. That was one that I grew up with.
Yeah.
So we watched it recently, and I don't know if it, I think it's finally starting to show its age a little bit. I think we watched it like over Christmas or
Yeah,
something.
we
I've
did
seen
over
it like
Breeze.
20 times, but
Show its
yeah.
age in what sense?
We were watching it again. I think a lot of the acting is really getting outdated in that movie, but it's still just an eerie movie, because it's not one of those movies that really makes you. I'm not really into movies with like jump scares
Right.
and like that kind of thing. I like more of like movies that kind of creep you out with like the overall tone of it. And this is one of those movies you still watch it, and there's just the eerie tone to the whole thing, even though like a lot of the acting is really cheesy now when you watch it, but it still has like, it still makes you feel like uncomfortable when you watch it. Like,
That's the type of horror movies I like. The ones that just, it's not necessarily that they're that scary. They just have this eerie tone the whole time.
Yeah.
And like, I really love the movie Strangers.
Yeah.
That came
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
I mean, because it's realistic. Like something
Yes,
like
those are the
someone
worst.
that would be
Yeah.
that sadistic, like that could happen to you.
Right.
And then we really enjoyed that movie that came out, I think it was last year, It Follows. That
Okay,
indie
I saw
horror
previews
film.
for that, but I never watched it because I had a feeling it was going to be really like social media based, and real teeny boppery, but it wasn't.
It's not. Yeah, it's
Nice.
It actually didn't get very good reviews and stuff. Like, I don't think a lot of people liked it, but we really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's not a really scary movie. It's like definitely has like a horror tone to it, but it's real hip and has like a hip soundtrack, and I feel like the story as it progresses and what the movie's really about, without giving anything away, is interesting enough to make it. Because I think with a lot of times with horror movies, the problem, you can be a fan of like B horror movies and just like the cheesiness and like that whole aspect of it. But a lot of horror movies, the ones that try to be scary, I think a lot of times miss out on that, or they miss the mark with that, because you're not invested in the characters, you're not invested in the story, so why would you care if anything bad happened to them?
Right.
So whereas it follows, I think that you do kind of get invested in the characters and really the overall message of the movie, which is kind of just about mortality or impending death. So it makes it interesting, even though the movie's not necessarily scary. It's just an interesting movie, and it's yeah.
Yeah, the whole basis of it is that all of these people know that death is coming for them, but they don't know when it will come.
Yeah.
And it's just them kind of trying to escape it.
Oh, okay, kind of like Final Destination in a sense.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
more of a kind of a more of an obscure like indie version of
Okay.
it.
Yeah,
So,
an indie version of
Yeah. It's kind of just a metaphor, I think, in general, for just life in general. Just people are just trying to cheat death and trying to. I think what the interesting aspect to it follows for me was the fact that they were trying to like live their lives normally throughout this movie but they couldn't, because this figure that followed them, that was going to kill them, was always kind of around the corner. So that was kind of, to me, that's what was like the horror part of it, was like not necessarily that they knew they were going to die, because obviously everybody dies eventually, like it was the fact that they couldn't like live their normal teenage lives. Like it kind of like there was this fight between like it being this coming of age story of like these kids like trying to be kids, and then of course like the horror story kind of like creeps into it. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then we saw The Witch 2, which came out last year.
that.
Was it pretty good?
That
was a
might
good
be
one,
my
yeah.
favorite horror film of all time.
Of all time? Okay.
It was so great.
That was another one that just wasn't like, it didn't have like a lot of jump scares. It wasn't like, but there was just a kind of a very like dark, eerie vibe the whole time that made you uncomfortable, and just little subtle things that would happen throughout the film that made you just like feel uneasy. And that was
They did a great job of the people that are supposed to love you and keep you safe, of turning them into the exact opposite of that. And it was just
it was like family
interesting.
turning against each other.
It was definitely more of a psychological horror movie. It just really messed with your head.
Yeah, they kind of like, it took like the whole idea of the like satanic possession, or like I guess because it was Satan, that was kind of like this whole like possession kind of story, but being like, because you see all these other movies that are like possession movies, and it's just like somebody's possessed and their eyes roll back in their heads, and then like the house starts shaking, and like, but in this one it's kind of more about like, so this happens, this either Satan or whoever the devil is, somebody is possessing this family because they've been cursed, and so the whole psychological part of it kind of ties into, or stems from them turning against each other.
Yeah, they never really know who is the one causing all of this havoc on their family, and they just slowly start turning against each other.
And blaming each other for like why their family's like in all this turmoil and stuff. And so like that's kind of a thing where you take this family that's supposed to be like this tight-knit group of people, but they all start slowly one by one like turning against each other.
Yeah, they took the like love they had for each other and somehow twisted it. It was you just have to, I would suggest seeing it.
That's a good one. Yeah, I like that one for sure. That was a good, and it was shot really well too. It was really really good cinematography, and just I think it did a really good job of pulling you in on that one. So
Do you guys know why they always have horror movies and it's always like a haunted, possessed house? That's what gets me. Every time I see a new horror movie, it's like always something about a house.
It's like, why can't you just like leave the house?
Yeah.
Sort of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
By the time you leave the house, entity has latched on to one of your family members and it comes with you. That's what always happens.
I think there is something that's supposed to be a little bit more inherently like scary about there being a specific like locale that is haunted, maybe because you
Always an
see it.
Indian burial ground.
Yeah,
Right. That was go back to the same thing.
I think that started with with Poltergeist.
Poltergeist,
actually.
yeah.
I think that was the movie that sparked the whole Indian burial ground thing. But yeah, there's something. I mean, I'm usually more drawn towards the stories about like there being a specific location that's haunted rather than like somebody who's possessed. But I don't know. That's just my personal taste.
Well, now they're moving on to the possessed objects.
Oh, yeah, that's
with the Ed and Lorraine Warren, like they actually have those paranormal investigators
Right.
that are like famous, but they actually out of their home they have a museum you can go to, and it has all of the possessed objects that they keep in this safe room, and you can go in and look at them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't keep that in my house. But hey, man,
know.
if that's what you're into.
Yeah, well, they say it's to protect the outside world from these objects and the spirits
So it doesn't
being
get in the wrong
released.
hands.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
so The Conjuring was based off of that, and then
Yeah.
what Annabelle was the sequel. I guess it was a sequel. Yeah.
yeah, and then
Was about
they
the
just
doll.
had a new one come out a couple months ago. Did I see it with you?
No, you saw it with your parents.
Okay.
Her parents are also big into horror movies.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Horror
They-
family.
Yeah.
You guys have Netflix? You guys
Yeah.
have you guys seen Creep
Oh,
with Mark Duplass?
I did. I started watching it. I fell asleep not because I didn't enjoy it because it was like late at night.
Yeah.
But I didn't end up finishing that one. I like Mark Duplass's movies in general. I think he's done a lot of really like cool stuff.
Yeah. And that movie was one of the first movies I actually liked. That was like the found footage. I didn't know that was a whole genre. I
Yeah.
guess after Blair Witch.
It is kind of now. They're doing a
Yeah.
lot of them.
I'll have to check that out. I haven't even heard of it.
It's pretty good. It's like one of the psychological ones where you're like, okay, yeah, this dude. So the idea is he gets a guy to come in and kind of film his last days because he thinks he has cancer, or he says he has cancer.
Okay.
And then they kind of go through a whole spiel of things where towards the end, and it's like, it's not gory. There's not really a lot of jump at you kind
Yeah.
of stuff. It's just like, oh, someone can be this fucked up. Like it could
Just like
happen.
a really, yeah.
Yeah. And then they incorporate like, okay, how do you find this guy? Well, we want something like Craigslist, right? So something that we all do every day.
Yeah.
That could really actually happen.
And I think that you have to do that nowadays to really scare people because like we're so exposed to like, without getting like too heavy and stuff, we're so exposed to violence, but not just like cinematic violence, but like real violence nowadays.
Right.
And we see it all the time. And so like going and seeing a horror movie is like nothing, in like this kind of Western culture. So like now we have to like make movies like stark and like realistic in order to get any reaction out of people. And I mean, I can imagine watching some of the movies that are out now like 20 years ago. I mean, people would be shitting their pants.
Yeah, it's
like,
true.
It's just because they're so much more realistic, and like death scenes now, like people, it's like,
all of the Saw movies.
Or like Hostel.
Yes.
Oh, man.
That one scared me.
well, going back to The Witch. I mean, there's a scene where somebody in the film dies, and you watch him die, but it was like this is how people really die. It's not like it's not like a like dramatic like. It's a realistic like death scene. It's and it's really hard to watch.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where we're at now, I guess.
That's a good point.
You become
People are-
desensitized
Right.
eventually. So
Yeah, with social media and everyone has cameras now on them, they can record anything.
yeah.
That's a real good point.
I mean, there's a lot of transparency with everything. I mean,
Yeah.
So you have to kind of like keep getting more extreme, I guess, in order to keep people's interest up. So
We'll eventually make a horror movie.
oh yeah, that's because we want to do a short film eventually, but we have so many ideas for things. I mean, it's gonna be one of those things we're gonna have to really like sit down and like work through some of our ideas. But I think we want to eventually do a short horror movie, and they've got a lot of good film festivals out there now that support it. There's one in KC now that does it. I don't know. Saw something about it a while ago. So
Yeah, they got a couple of different film fests here.
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly. So what is it about horror that really kind of draws you guys in, piques your interest? Just deranged individuals like myself?
Maybe.
I like the style that goes into it, like the atmosphere and all that stuff. I mean, it's not necessarily for me like kind of horror fantasy, but like a lot of the stuff that we did was like with film noir and like the 80s kind of vibes and stuff, because I always like 80s movies and like the way that 80s movies look, like the atmosphere and the feel, like that whole atmosphere that goes into it. You know, nowadays with horror movies, like I said, they're more stark and they're more real and they're more like, but back then they had a lot more of a fantasy element to it.
Theatrical, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's cool. I think especially when you tie it into music and tie in like this whole, you know, with Shadow Rabbits, we want to do like kind of a whole like visual music package, kind of taking the elements from those older movies, because they have more of a like a stylistic aesthetic to them. I think that's kind of I want to bring that kind of into what we do. And I think a lot, I mean, you look at like a lot of musical projects nowadays, going back to social media and there being a lot of transparency. There is you know, most bands nowadays, there isn't really kind of this wall put up in between the band and the audience. You kind of see what you get. You know, they post on Instagram about like what they're doing all the time. It's like, hey, we're at In-N-Out Burger before the show or something. So you kind of get like a very like intimate like look into all these bands and who they are. Now, if you go back into like the 60s and stuff, all those bands, it wasn't like that. You know, there was kind of like this image of who they were, and it probably wasn't who they really were. You know, they probably did put on sort of like a front, but you didn't have the access back then. And I think that that's something that we kind of like the idea of. I don't know if it's achievable anymore, but kind of creating an image of, you know, like, this isn't really who we are. We're not really like these people, but the way we portray ourselves in social media, or maybe just kind of being more of an act, or like more of like a theatrical type of deal.
Yeah,
And
actually, a lot of bands that I've been talking to have been talking about making that shift from being transparent to kind of going back to the way it was before, where there is kind of that little mystique, right? Because that keeps it more interesting for the listener.
Yeah, you don't want reality.
Yeah.
You
don't want to really know. Yeah.
But then
you want everything to be greater and intriguing.
I read this interesting article. God, I think it was about like is it AV Club that does it, or Consequence of Sound? They do this like thing. It's totally awful, and I hate reading it. I feel terrible, but it's like songs we hate or something like that. So it's like they take like an artist and they're like, explain like a song that you hate, and it was John Vanderslice talking about, I think, like Third Eye Blind or something. And it was like a personal experience that he had with like the band or the singer of Third Eye Blind. I don't know the guy's name. But there was an interesting point that was made in this whole like rant that he went on about it. And it was about how, you know, back in the day, like everybody all these musicians, they were all assholes, and everybody knew they were assholes. And like nowadays, he says, because of all the transparency and all the, you know, there's always a camera on you. Everybody's like nice all the time. It's like, oh no, we're so humble, and like we, so like all these bands you talk to or you see like tweeting and like on all these interviews, they're just all like the nicest people, and they're so nice and sweet. And he's like, I don't think that's changed. I don't think people just inherently became nicer. I just think it's just the way that we've like focused, like we shifted, like, or there's more of attention like placed on like that aspect of the band now. So now people like want to brand themselves as being like good guys,
right?
You know? And they're on the opposite spectrum. I mean, there's some bands that do the opposite. They intentionally act like assholes because that is kind of what they're going for.
Right.
Like they want to be that kind of band. Kanye. Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. And at the same time, you got to be very careful too, right? Because if you put up kind of that mystique or you play that certain character, people are just automatically going to assume that that's who you are.
Yeah.
And so you got to play that really, really carefully. And what I think is really interesting now with social media and all that transparency is the way that marketing is coming in and being completely invisible, right? So they're paying all of these YouTube tastemakers and all these people who have tons of followers to tweet out about their stuff. Yeah. And you're just like, okay, I didn't know that's coming from a marketer, or is that coming from you as a person? So I think that's a really interesting, kind of depressing, but very interesting, because you even see like articles, like blog posts getting written by respected journalists, but they're getting paid to write something for this company so they sell more products.
Yeah.
You know, even the whole Pokemon Go thing, right? That whole phenomenon.
Yeah.
Now companies can pay people to place Pokemon in their shops, so you can go try to find
I
a
didn't
Pokemon.
hear about that. That's crazy.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the way it's going, man. This whole big data thing is all getting paid for. Like Kansas City is now a smart city, so they have like meters. IEDs down in the city. They have meters and different things that are reading various points of data. and all that gets funded by advertising.
Yeah.
You know, it's like millions of dollars to put that in and commission it. And there's a lot of companies that came together to commission that. But at the end of the day, who ends up paying for it is all the marketing people. They'll come in and they'll sell all your data.
Yeah.
All the data that they get, they'll sell it off and they'll say, okay, so I'm going to walk by this store and I'm going to get a push notification they're having a sale, right? So you're going to go into that store. So it's extremely deceptive how marketing's working. But
yeah, and I mean, that's, you know, you have to come to that realization too, if you're in a band and you're making music, is that your whole existence is basically to make somebody else money. You're an advertising tool. And, you know, 20 years ago, that was the whole, like, people were still being called sellouts and all that stuff for it. But nowadays, I think it's just it's such a blanketed, like, there's no escaping it. You know, so that's kind of the whole point of your existence, in a sense. I mean, like, obviously, like, we still do this stuff because we enjoy doing it. And that's the only reason why we did it. You know, telling the story of how we became Shadow Rabbits, you know, we wouldn't have done it unless we just wanted to do something. We never went into it with the intention of, like, eventually, you know, marketing our music or licensing it, you know, which is something we'll probably eventually do, or at least try to do. But yeah, you just have to eventually come to that realization that that's the way it is.
yeah, you're right. It's a very slippery slope because now people are excited when they get on commercials because commercials are going to, like Jeep, they break bands.
Yeah.
Right? Where before, you're exactly right. Oh, that band sold out. Why would they do that? Why would they let their music be used like that? Or like that big fuss about the Star Trek movie where the Beastie Boys, they've never licensed and they've always said we're never going to license our song. And then it was in like that Star Trek trailer and everyone was losing their shit over it. And it's like, guys, there comes a point in time like when this has to pay the bills, like you got to do stuff like that.
Well, because it's your job now.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing is, especially when you're in a band, people don't realize how demanding it is. You know, we've played 3 shows, but if we wanted to do this and make money off of it, we'd have to tour.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be, you know, we wouldn't be able to work our normal jobs.
Yeah,
And,
you have to make money some way.
yeah,
So-
and that's how you make your money, is doing it through
Right.
licensing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because you can't really make, unless you're like a mid-major sort of band, like you can't really make that much money off of like touring or anything like that anymore.
Yeah. Not enough to support yourself.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know, like I said, it's become a full-time job now if you want to really pursue this type of thing. So, I mean, you just kind of have to accept the fact that you're going to be a marketing tool because that's the only way to really make money.
Right. Yeah. I go down to South by Southwest and it's just like Doritos and Mountain Dew everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
We do want to go to South by next year. She's never been. I've been a couple times, but we just kind of go for fun.
It's an experience.
It's
an
a
experience.
wild experience.
I remember showing up like on a Thursday, and then I was like, "Wow, there's a lot of people here." And then Friday it doubled. I'm like, "There's no way."
It gets worse.
Yeah, the Saturday I'm like, holy shit! It's like the whole state of Texas just in these like 5-6 blocks
It's
in Austin.
crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's something I think you have to kind of see
True.
at least once.
Yeah.
You know, experience at least once.
You were hit by a car there,
Wait.
weren't you?
No, that was at Wakarusa.
Oh, okay.
I was hit by that music festival used to have in Lawrence.
Yeah.
Years ago. So I was hit by a car.
Hit by a car?
Yeah, somebody was on something and they were driving, and I was drunk. I mean, I wasn't like super drunk, but I was just walking with my friends, and like we were just in the campground. Somebody was driving and just like hit, I rolled up on their windshield.
Holy shit.
And I was totally fine. Like I rolled off, like I hit the windshield and rolled off, like totally like it was like an action movie.
It's probably good that you were drunk so
Yeah.
you're relaxed.
Just like, whoa.
Anyone catch that on film?
Yeah. And then I got up and like they got out of the car and I knew they were like severely intoxicated because you could tell. And then they were like freaking out. They're like, "Oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?" Like they're freaking out that like I needed like medical attention. And I like got up and I'm like, I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay. Like I actually feel fine." I was like walking around and I was like, and we're all laughing like, "I can't believe I survived that." And then of course the next morning I wake up and I'm just like my body is just I couldn't move, like in severe pain. So
Oh my
yeah, I
gosh.
wasn't okay, but I thought I was at the time. And,
Yeah.
I mean, didn't break anything, but
I've only seen one person get hit by a car. He was going across a crosswalk, and this car came up to make it was a right turn, yeah. And this guy, the car wasn't even going very fast, but it just took this dude and he flew.
yeah.
Yeah, but then he like landed. It's like he was embarrassed, and he got up and kept walking. I'm like, dude, just got hit by a fucking car.
my.
Yeah.
what are you doing?
He was probably in shock.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's scary. I think as long as you
Flee.
don't go under the car, I think you're usually like you're gonna get. I mean, it's like the car's not going too fast, but you don't want to go under the car. You
Yeah.
just want to make sure you like get on like over the hood.
Just
That's, like, the
leap
big-
when you see it coming at you.
Yeah. try to hit the hood because it has like a little give to it.
Right.
Tips on
This-
getting
yeah, this-
hit by a car.
Yeah, this podcast is turned into like survival tips, especially when you're at music festivals and people are driving drunk.
Be safe out there, kids.
Right. Wow. So this, so you guys are thinking about doing another music video you're talking about
Yeah, we've been planning one for a while.
for a song off the EP? For a new
No,
song?
we're moving on past that one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a new
New
new one. I actually wrote it right after Bowie passed away about him, and it's very strange. And we came up with this really cool idea for it. I think it's gonna take a lot of work. It's gonna be a lot more costuming than because we're gonna have a whole group of people in it, and I don't know. We don't want to give too much away, but I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
If it comes out the way we're envisioning.
Yeah, if we ever get on, this one's been because the other music videos were like, okay, let's do it. We go out and do it, but this one's like, because there's so much planning and stuff going into it, it's going to be a lot. We're kind of stalling a little bit, but we also want to record music. We're recording a bunch of new music at the same time. So, and I think there's a part where we want to kind of keep it all a little cohesive and have kind of like an idea, sort of like we did with the last EP. But it's
a lot on our plate in the coming months.
yeah, we should hopefully have something out. We wanted to release something this year, but I don't know if we're gonna wait to release like another EP or album or something yet. We don't really know how we want to do it, but we might wait a little bit. But we're gonna still try to produce content too. We have ideas for, like, we were talking about doing more like acoustic kind of like you see a lot of like YouTube videos where they're doing like acoustic covers and stuff.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe doing something that's like that, but maybe like a play on idea of it, like kind of take it a different direction, get a little more creative with it or something. So we've had a few different ideas for ways we can still produce content, because kind of going back to the whole thing with the social media, like we don't really use it as social media as a tool to like let people like know what's going on in our lives, because we have our own personal like Facebook accounts and stuff for that. So really like the Shadow Rabbits social media stuff is just content only really at this point. So we're just kind of trying to find ways to generate as much of it as possible so it doesn't just kind of go stagnant.
Every incentive was met by your charm. In every hour
So what was it about the film noir genre that really kind of pulled you guys in? I wasn't familiar with that genre until I started reading about you guys, and I think The Bridge did a piece in Johnson County Library.
Yeah.
That interview with you guys, we talked about the film noir. And so I think you obviously nailed like all the cues, like black and white, smoking a cigarette, kind of that whole depression-ish, kind of the small glimmer of hope, but probably not really.
Yeah. I don't know. It kind of came just...
For me, it's just the simplicity of it. It's kind of like, this is what we're giving you. Like, take it as it is. It's not over the top.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just something about it that is beautiful
Yeah.
to me personally.
Yeah, I just like always like the style of it, and I'm not somebody who's really like well versed in like films from that era. I'm not like, but I like the style of it. I mean, Portishead's one of my biggest influences, and that their whole like image and sound is pretty much derived from film noir. And
Right.
I mean, they sample like soundtracks from films that were of that kind of era and stuff. And the song Kill for What You Love has kind of that same sound a little bit too. Like, I mean, the beginning of it sounds like it's kind of cheesy, but like the start of the song sounds sort of unintentionally like, you know, somebody walks into like an interrogation room. So like that's kind of where the idea of like having the interrogation scene sort of like stem from, just kind of popped up, you know, in our heads. Yeah, but like she said, it's a real simple. It's very deliberate too. A lot of that style is very deliberate. It's I think especially working in black and white too. We had a little bit more freedom just to kind of shoot on the go and not really worry too much about getting everything right, because with shooting video, like getting color right and stuff is kind of the toughest part.
Sure.
And lighting. So like we were able just to kind of go out and shoot and use the idea of the story, which is more of like the star of like the video was kind of the story, like kind of stick to that and be able to just do it all in one day and shoot. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think that just the way the song sounded lended to the style of the film noir style. And I don't know, the way the sound of the song kind of just came. I don't know if that was something that we intentionally made it wanted it to sound like it was like the film noir style. It just kind of happened.
Yeah, we just made the song and it seemed to fit that genre, and we're like, well, we should do a video in that style for it.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said earlier, when she wrote, you know, the song and sang the melody and had the lyrics all written out, so it was just putting the music behind it. It just kind of just happened. And then you listen to the other songs on the EP, like they don't really follow that same. They don't really sound like that. Mm-hmm. So I mean, the next song, it's more of like I always thought it kind of sounded like The Police a little bit, you know, and then so it kind of just goes in a little bit of a different direction. It's not all like that, but for that specific song and that specific video, like we wanted to kind of try something like that, but do it in a modern way too, you know, not like make it look like it took place, you know, in the mid like 20th century, you know, make it look like it's something, because obviously it's like a Toyota Camry video. So
They had those back then.
yeah. Seems like it.
So for her scene, when you were singing, Ashley, was everything like in double time and then you slowed it down, but it looked like you were singing normally?
Oh.
Yeah, it was slow motion.
Yeah.
So she had to sing it. You just sing it sped up.
Yeah, I sang it sped up.
Okay.
And then there was a part where we did it in reverse too. We like reversed the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, that scene was kind of hard to get down because I had to be right, like singing it faster and like right on cue.
Yeah.
So I got frustrated during that scene, actually. I was
Yeah.
ready to kill him.
Well, it was a lot of it too was because you were doing it, because we kind of choreographed it too, where we didn't go into it thinking we were going to do it this way, but we kind of choreographed it to where you were singing it, but then you'd have like certain like motions, especially with smoking the cigarette, like you'd take it, drag at a certain point in the song, and then like you would like turn your head a certain way at a certain point. So like we were kind of like blocking the whole thing, and having her singing at the same time, and it was very late at night, and we were both tired, and she was because I mean, you know,
So the anger in that scene is real.
It's real.
Where I'm like hitting the table. I'm like,
And I tried the whole, like, would you speed up the song and lip sync to it? Like, I tried it myself to kind of see if it would work and how it would sync up. And it's hard. It's not as easy as you would.
And you got to be real articulate too with your lips, right? So it like looks like you're saying the actual words.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like we always say that you need to like actually sing the song when you're doing it, because it doesn't really look like you're singing if you just like mouth the words. But if you actually sing it, but with something like that, you can't really actually sing it. Yeah. You have to sort of like mouth it, and it didn't line up the whole way through, and that was fine. You know, I mean,
I was whispering it very quietly.
You got pretty damn close though. It looked real good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of those things too. With I think with the lip syncing of it, like it was more of a stylistic thing where it might not have looked like she was really singing it, but I think because of the way we were doing it, and it was like this interrogation scene, and it was like it could kind of get off, and it would be fine. Like there was a point where like we had you stop singing, like you kind of turned and like your vocals didn't match up. That was something I saw in a music video from the 90s, and I can't remember which one it was, but it was like where she was singing, and it was like a girl singing. It might have been a Portishead video, and I think she was singing, and then she like quit singing and like kind of turned her head away, and I always thought that was cool. So.
Yeah. Even the part where I wasn't supposed to show my eyes, like the hat was supposed to cast a shadow on them until the very end. And that was hard too, because naturally you want to move around. And I'm like, okay, I have to make sure my chin is at a certain level so you can't see my eyes. And
I don't think we'd planned on that really. We didn't want to show your eyes, but we didn't really have an idea for why. And then at the end of the video, she has like those dead eyes. Yeah, and that was
fully black.
And that was something that was decided, like that we didn't know we were gonna do that. It was just like this kind of idea that like you never see her eyes, and then like, well, what if then when you finally see her whole full face, that like her eyes are like black or something, you know? So that was I think the last day of editing that we came up with that idea. Kind of again going into something without a complete idea of what you're gonna do. It just kind of comes along.
Yeah, that might be our thing. It's worked
it's
so
working.
far.
To start shooting. Yeah, maybe if we start planning stuff, it won't go as well.
So what's the time devotion from like shooting to post? Is it like a 50-50 or shooting like 20% of the full time and then 80% is in post?
Well, it depends on the video. Yeah, I mean Truest Blue was. I mean, even though we had a lot of shots, a lot of it was animated, so that one was mostly post. But I mean, it always takes longer in post, I think, no matter what.
Yeah,
but.
If there's any type of animation, that's what. Thankfully, you do all that.
Yeah,
that's what takes so long. Because I mean, it's just every little second of the frame he has to make sure is
it takes a
perfect.
while. But yeah, with kill what you. I always say kill for love. Kill what you love. Yeah, that one we shot. I mean, that didn't take too long to edit. It was pretty quick because we kind of went into it with a pretty specific idea of what we were going to do. And there were some things we had kind of tweak in the editing room. But yeah, like I said, I think it just kind of depends on the video. There was one video that we did it was kind of for fun. Back when they had the ALS ice bucket challenge.
I saw that. That was awesome.
I
was like,
Stanley
holy.
Kubrick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, eyes wide shut kind of feel to it.
Yeah, and that was before Shadow Rabbits. I mean, that was so Bo, who plays in Shadow Rabbits, the guitarist, he was the guy getting the ice dumped on his head. Us three had just decided to do that one day because my dad, I think, challenged me or something. He was like, "Oh, you gotta do it."
Like, we'll do it, but we're gonna do it
let's do something
in our style.
Yeah. But like that one, we went out and shot it. It took us a couple hours to shoot it, and I think we edited it in like 10 minutes. I think we came home and just like cut it together. It was like everything just worked really well, and we're like, "Oh, okay, cool. Like it's done." So, but then you do stuff with like animation and all that, and then that can take, I think Truest Blue took 6 months to edit and animate.
Oh, wow.
Much. So not too excited about doing another video that takes 6 months too, but
I don't think this next one, there'll really be a lot of animation, so it shouldn't take that long, hopefully.
Yeah, it's going to be, the whole concept of the video is because she wrote it saying about like David Bowie. Mm-hmm. It's kind of, without going into detail what the video is actually about, it kind of plays on the idea of people's reactions to like these tragic events or like celebrity deaths or like something that's happened a lot in this past year.
Sure.
Obviously. And you see people's reactions on social media. But it's a video, I think, that's going to play on the idea of when something like that happens, kind of everyone, all these different people around the world sort of have this like tied connection to it, or they at least seem like they do, you know? So we're kind of playing on that idea a little bit.
Yeah, they all come together over this one.
Kind of different characters
Yeah.
and stuff. I think we're going to try to shoot it in sort of like a like Terrence Malick style deal, like where it's just a bunch of random footage almost kind of like spliced together in a coherent way, but it all kind of like ties together in the end.
Yeah,
Nice.
in the very end, everything comes together. And hopefully we can get that drone camera because we want to film like from above.
Sure.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
If we can, it will be really cool.
So that's a really interesting topic, and so I want to know your guys' thoughts. So when a celebrity like that dies, let's say that is like your favorite songwriter, in a sense, you feel like you have a personal connection to them because you like their music and you understand their music, and music influences different sections of your life. But I feel, my personal feeling is that some people kind of go over the top with it. Like I lived in Seattle when Kurt Cobain died.
Mm-hmm.
And I had friends, we all listened to Nirvana, we were all fans of the whole grunge era. But it was like, are you guys really that sad about Kurt Cobain dying that you're going to spend the next week, take it off work, and then just go sit in front of his house with like a candlelight visual? Or like when with Prince dying, with Bowie dying, all of this, I can appreciate. On social media, it's a little bit easier because I'm going to type something up about it, right? But people who it like deeply affects, I guess I've never really understood why that is. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Gosh, that's a hard question. I don't know, because I know that I was extremely upset when Bowie passed away, and I think it's that you just, whenever you love someone that much and their music and their art inspires you that much, I don't know, like it takes on a part of your life. It's kind of ingrained in it, and whenever you know that's going to end, it kind of leaves you feeling a little empty like that.
Right, that he's not going to release more material.
Yeah, there's...
What about like when bands just stop playing, Because
The same
essentially
thing.
you're
Does it have
kind
the
of...
same effect?
Yeah. Because
And
I mean, there's not that human element of someone dying, but you're not going to get more music from them.
Yeah. No, I know that I used to be really into this band and they broke up, and yeah, I felt the same way. I'm never going to hear any more music from them again, and I don't know.
I think it's, well, I mean, like with Bowie, that was a weird one for me because I'm never the type of person who feels like emotional when like a celebrity dies, because it's like, well, I might have liked them or something. And I mean, I love Bowie's music, but I'm not like, and I don't know, I mean, I know there's a lot of big Bowie fans. I'm not like a huge Bowie fan. Like I don't really own any of his records. I love his music. I think it's great. But when he died, that was probably the first time I've ever like been emotional. Maybe it's because I'm getting older now, but I did feel emotional over it. And I think it's because I respected him personally. I was like listening to his interviews, and I think I was a little bit more personally connected just maybe to him as opposed maybe just like somebody who was a fan of his music. But there's definitely people who are over the top with it. And, whenever something bad happens, like I was saying, we've had a lot of instances this year of like terrible things happening, like celebrity deaths, like all sorts of like controversial things that are, I'm not the type of person who posts about it on social media. Some people are, and some people might feel emotional about it. Maybe that's their way of coping with it. It's because they have to like speak out about it and like, or speak to somebody about it. So like social media is a platform a way for them to do it. And then there's people, I think there's like a third kind of group of people who are, I think maybe do it out of self-promotion too. So like they use these like events and they're like, oh, well, somebody, died, and he's like, I really love them. Now listen to my cover of their song that I did, which like happens, and like it's something that kind of
You're spot on, and I feel like there's a majority of the folks are like that.
Yeah,
because some of these people, they'll say, I'm a huge fan of this artist or this artist that died, and it's like, okay, were you really though? Or are you saying it to just get the attention now? Yeah. So I always second guess that. It's just really interesting to me because I feel like you feel like you have a personal connection.
Yeah.
And in some sense you do, because, like songs get you through hard times, in your life, and music has that ethereal, emotional feel to it. But I still can't really understand super deeply how it like affects people to where sometimes I won't even like leave the house for a couple days. It's like,
yeah.
I think it also depends on your mental state.
That's very true. That's
you
very
become
true. That's
so
a good point.
obsessed with someone that I think a lot of people create this
Yeah.
sort of alternate world where they do know them
Right.
or something.
Yeah.
So when that gets taken, you're like,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even like with social media, like we were talking about earlier, that transparency now. So now you feel more connected to them.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what they ate for breakfast.
you're like, oh, we're friends. Like, I
Right.
can go look at his page and he's going to have brunch.
We were
Yeah.
we were talking about that
Strange.
yesterday too. I think about social media, how there's like we were talking. There's this philosopher, God, what's his name? Peter Singer has this theory about like the expanding circle, where it's like human empathy, like over time, like a society kind of merges with other societies, like our level of empathy for other people like expand to just beyond like the people we know personally. And I think that with Facebook and social media, it's something, and you can see it happening almost in real time, how like our empathy like expands to people like way beyond like our social circles now. And I think that kind of plays into it a little bit more. So now we have like a little bit more of an emotional connection with these artists that we might have been a little bit more disconnected from, 20 years ago. But nowadays, there are people who post about their lives all the time. Like I don't like, do you know Michelle Bacon at all?
Yeah.
So like, she had her grandmother was somebody that she like would post about on social media all the time,
Right.
and nobody had met her grandmother, but like when she passed away recently, like we all felt like really emotional about it because she'd post about her all the time and like post
Right.
videos, and like we all like felt like a personal connection with her.
Everyone
Yeah.
loved her.
Yeah, everybody loved her grandma as somebody that none of us had ever met her before. So
That's true.
Yeah, and
That's a
it's
good point.
like, and you can probably feel like that way about other people now, like your favorite artists, and because you have access to like interviews and you can see them and they're like more, you get more into like their psyche a little bit, so you have more of like a personal connection with them.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah, it was a bummer when we saw that.
Yeah,
on social
I was
media.
like, I was bummed out about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, it's very sad.
I know Michelle. I mean, a little bit. I mean, we played in bands together, but I know her more about like her social media posts. Like I saw more of like her like posting about her grandma all the time, and it's like,
Right.
then when you see something like that happen, you're like, man, why? I didn't know this person, but you get so like attached to it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. But that's the way of the future, I guess, is that a lot of our emotional attachment to things is going to be more through a
Our personal connections
Yeah.
are through media
Yeah.
a lot now. So
And it's kind of crazy too. You have like parents nowadays, or like older generations, are so upset by kids. Like, well, get your face out of the damn screen because, like, look at the world around you. And I think, in a sense, they're right. Like, I think you do need to like have a connection to reality, but at the same time, like, this younger generation of kids, they're probably going to grow up with more empathy towards other people because of social media, because they're going to be able to have more of a connection to other people that we weren't able to. We grew up in these like, societies where like we're still somewhat segregated from like other types of people. So like you only grow up with people like, that are kind of like you or like in the same social class, social structure. But now kids like have an access to other types of people that live in like societies completely alien to our society, and so like they're gonna be more, I think, open-minded and have just a completely different outlook on life. So in a way, I think it's a really great thing that they have their heads in their screen. I'm kind of like, I'll take a little bit of an opposite, but it's also kind of annoying too when they're driving and they're it's like, okay, now you can like pay attention to reality and not be looking for Pokemon or whatever.
It is interesting like we talked about earlier, because we talked about horror films and how it's desensitized everyone because of social media, and then social media is also creating empathy.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how humans are adapting to social media just in general, and we're just at the infancy stages of it right now.
Yeah, I know. That's what's crazy. We were talking about Facebook about like 6 years ago, how people interacted, because they have that new like time, or that time, I don't know what it's called. It's like it shows you like your post.
time lapse.
Yeah, or time machine or what. It's like they show you your post from like 6
previous years. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called, but you can every day you wake up and Facebook's like, this is what you posted 6 years ago, and it's like totally embarrassing, and you're like, oh my god, like what was I doing? But one thing I thought was interesting about it was seeing how everyone's interactions on Facebook were like so much different back then. It's like it was just like it was like Facebook used to be, and it seems weird to think about it, but it used to be a way for people to like kind of interact one-on-one with people. So like you would post on your friend's wall and then they would post back on your wall.
Right.
But like it's now more of this open forum. And I think that now that when people post on social media, they're not posting like their inner thoughts. It's less of a journal of like their daily lives and more of a forum for them to speak. So now it's like basically you're giving a microphone to like, you know, billions of people and saying like, here, what do you think? And they know there's an audience out there, so like their interactions are just completely different than they used to be. It's evolved into something completely different. So.
Yeah. It's like Facebook's kind of a tool for a lot of people to go, here's what I'm doing. Here's the great things that I'm doing. Here's kind of the highlights of my life. And it was interesting because I was reading an article too about that. And they're saying that a lot of people now think that being sad is like a clinical problem. It's like, now it's a human emotion, but we're all so used to seeing everything so happy online that we just can't, we're starting to kind of phase that out. And so then what happens? You need pharmaceutical companies that are like, oh yeah, that is a clinical issue. Here's some pills for that. Oh, you're going to send out our reps and all the doctors. And so it's going to be interesting, in my opinion, to kind of see where we go moving forward, especially with AI, right?
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence.
Yeah. I'm still like, that one's a little weird, especially when you see like the articles about like what's the like what a meme that was going around where there was like a robot that had like primitive, like I guess in relative like what AI could be, it was primitive like form of AI, but they're like kicking the robot to the ground and stuff, and it's like what, like I don't know, that's what you want to be doing right now.
That movie with Isaac.
Ex Machina.
Yeah, that was an interesting example
That
of
was a really good movie.
kind of what we need to be prepared for.
Well, and it's funny too because like, yeah, I mean, I would say like when I was even like a teenager, like all those movies about like even like 1984 is something you still kind of scoff at. People like joke at the idea of like, well, 1984, like it's like become kind of a joke when you use that term, like, well, this is totally 1984, and you're like, haha, okay, whatever. But now you're kind of like, well, you know, it's getting kind of crazy. Like things are starting to kind of like, and you don't want to be like, me personally, I don't want to be like that conspiracy theorist, but like you start to see these things and you're like, huh, okay. Like, yeah, it's
the craziest thing lately is when people are like, oh, I was just talking to my friend about this, and now I'm getting these advertisements about this exact same thing. I was just talking, not typing, talking to someone about.
I think that shit's real. Like,
it is, absolutely.
I've noticed that before because I know, I mean, I'm totally okay with like the browsing history thing. Like, well, I'm online looking at something, and then like you see an ad on Facebook. But there's been times recently where like, I know I have not been actively shopping for something, but I've been talking to other people about it, and then it'll like appear, and I'm like, okay,
It's happened to me.
that's
too.
weird. Yeah.
It's happening more frequently now.
It's very strange.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a sci-fi thing anymore. I mean, with the NSA stuff and like, I mean, we know it could happen, and it has happened, and it's just like with how much transparency there is with like now. You know, these technology companies, like, you know, what are they, you know, keeping secret and stuff. So without, like I said, sounding like a conspiracy theorist, but because I'm totally
are.
I am too. You're in good company because I am too. Completely.
See, I'm the opposite. I'm like totally like, I always like try to be as like rational as possible when it comes to conspiracy theories. But if there's something that looks a little weird and like I can't explain it, like, you know, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not going to try to come to a conclusion, but I'm definitely going to be weary of what's going on because, like you were saying, that whole thing. I noticed that recently. Like, that was weird. I'm just like, why am I getting advertisements?
Right.
But they do have like weird algorithms too that for like your shopping history and a lot of times and stuff like that. So like there was a story of that girl I was telling you about this, that her parents were upset with Target because they started getting coupons in the mail for like diapers and stuff, like maternity clothes and diapers. Like Target was sending these coupons, but it was for her daughter because it was like her daughter's account that she was using or whatever. And her parents got upset, and turns out her daughter was pregnant, and she was keeping it from her parents, like she wasn't telling them. But it wasn't based off of stuff that she was shopping. Like she wasn't shopping for maternity clothes. She was buying stuff that pregnant women usually buy like in early stages of their pregnancy. So it was like cotton balls and stuff like that. But it started like sending her like coupons for items of things that she would need like further down in her pregnancy. Yeah. So it was like they knew she was pregnant almost before she did, just based off of her shopping.
Target exposed her.
But it's kind of crazy that they have those algorithms out there that will know that about like they'll know that you're like pregnant before like you. But basically, by the time you know, like it's crazy. So that's where we are.
That's the scary future, man. Robots don't typically have empathy, and that's what makes us unique as human beings.
Yeah,
because you can get them to come up with like probabilities and they're going to figure out how to do all that chaos theory stuff where, we make decisions just based kind of in the moment off previous history. But that's the big thing is they don't have the empathy. So
Yeah.
what's
It
going
is,
to drive
that's
their
the scary
decisions?
part.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like what the Ex Machina, the whole dilemma in that movie is like, will we ever get to the point where robots are self-aware
Yeah.
and then they have to basically they go into like a survival mode. Like,
Yeah.
will we ever program that? I mean, it would have to be something that we teach them. We have to program them to like have that. But since we are human and we have our fingerprint on everything that we do, like, could it be like some inadvertent thing that like when we're like creating AI that it just kind of like naturally like kind of seeps into their like programming is
Yeah.
like our like fears and our like are just like human nature, and that's the problem that you're going to run into eventually, because we see these articles about people and like the AI, like the different things they're doing with AI, and it just seems like they're being so careless with it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You're like, what? Like, you guys are smart. Like, you should know this. Like,
Yeah.
you should know you're not supposed to be doing this. But yeah.
So on a lighter note, so you guys got to possibly some new music towards the end of this year.
Yeah, I mean, at least hopefully with our shows, you'll be seeing some new stuff.
Like we have about 5 songs in the works right now that are like half written. We're planning on taking a weekend soon and just kind of locking ourselves away and trying to get some of them completely finished.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to get a few shows going and have some new material out soon.
Yeah, I think we'll this time around start playing our stuff live probably before we start releasing it.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it'll take like the kind of the opposite of what we did before, just to try something new.
Yeah.
Keep it fresh.
Yeah,
Exactly.
try to work out new material live. So
Yeah, and if you guys are ever open to collaborations, there's a rapper in Kansas City called Secondhand King.
okay,
He does a lot of doo-wop stuff, and so he's like real familiar with that, and he sings a little bit too now. So
Okay.
I definitely
That's
encourage you guys to
awesome.
check him out because I know you had that remix on one of your tracks, and it kind of like had a on Spotify. It's
Oh.
kind of like got that hip hoppy feel to
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So just something to keep in mind. Just want to throw that out
Yeah,
there.
for sure. Yeah, that's Secondhand Kings. Did you do a podcast with him too? Then?
Yeah, he's
Okay.
coming into another one I'm doing. I've been friends with him for a while and just kind of seen him progress, and he's really stamping himself on the whole doo-wop thing.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
I'll
because
check
you really
him
don't
out
hear it
for
in
sure.
hip-hop. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean we're not like super into it, but yeah, we definitely had come from like a trip hop sort of.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the stuff that we do is borrowed from that. kind
Yeah,
of genre.
Portishead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I miss trip hop too. That was a great brief stint in time. Didn't last long, but it was cool when it was around.
Yeah. It'll come back around. Music's all cyclical.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, because I mean, a lot of the stuff that we're doing now with kind of like the throwback to some of like the 60s psychedelic stuff. Like, I mean, that was like popular 10 years ago. And I thought like doing it now would be like, oh, well, we're way past that like window. Like nobody's going to be into it. But now it's like coming back around. I mean, it's just coming back around again. Like, there's a bunch of bands like is it Pyramids or something?
Yeah, Pyramids.
Yeah, like they're doing it now. And like, again, and a lot of bands are getting like good radio player doing it too. So you never know. I mean,
That's what's great with music. I think anything kind of goes.
yeah. Whereas there used to be like specific genre. I mean, you'd have like, like 90s, there was like grunge and like a couple other genres that were popular at the time. And then but nowadays it's like there really isn't. I mean, it's just kind of like whatever goes almost.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there is like a specific genre anymore. It's just everything's kind of borrowed and recycled, and it's just all kind of a thing. It's either like rock, hip hop, or like country. Like that's it. Like you can really only like break it down into like 3. There's like the subgenre thing is just kind of like pointless now.
There's so many subgenres too. Holy shit! I'm like, that's a subgenre now. All right,
I
can
think
pronounce
that's
that.
why people kind of quit using those terms, and that because it's
Yeah, because there's just so many elements from different genres put into one thing now.
Right.
It's like we don't even know what to call our music. We were discussing that earlier. We were like, I hope he doesn't ask us like what is your music, because we don't know. Or like it's everything.
and it's gonna change too.
Yeah.
And like we know that, and
Yeah.
I mean that's the thing. It's like we don't know what we're gonna do next. So what's the point of?
I constantly want to evolve and just try different things.
Yeah.
So
And that's cool because that's what you want. And when you listen to like a band, I think that's what you want them to do. You want them to change.
Yeah.
You want to hear something different each time they release an album. So But yeah, the whole subgenre thing is pretty funny. I feel like that's become kind of like a joke nowadays almost.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely has.
'cause it's just so crazy.
I think it's just a result of being able to, like, when you put stuff up online digitally, you gotta have that metadata. So you tag it with just a bunch of words. People just come up just with random shit just to kind of tag it, just in case someone types that in looking for them, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything you can put core after now is it's like a thing. Something core.
Yeah.
My friend Bobby's really into like I think the whole subgenre joke thing, like something core. Like he always comes up with something like I've never heard. Of course, it's like a relevant thing because he's like super into like social media, so he knows it's a real thing. But like I listen to it, I'm just like, are you serious? What is this?
Yeah, he sends us some strange videos.
Yeah.
The one that I could never really fully understand was post-hardcore. Because I think post-hardcore is going to still be heavy. But
Yeah.
is it just people who used to play hardcore who don't, that play different genre of music now?
Yeah, so like the whole post thing, I guess, was like when the genre, like towards the end of the genre's run or whatever, right? Is that kind of how it?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah,
means,
like
yeah.
so, like when like Under Oath and kind of those screamo bands
Yeah.
just started like getting less in popularity. Then this post-hardcore scene kind of came up. Where
Yeah.
Brand New, Thrice. I'm like, that's post-hardcore.
Well, it's because they sing pretty, and then on the chorus they just scream a little.
A little bit of screaming, a
There's just like a little touch of screaming in it. So,
little peppering.
Yeah, and I think like post rock came from when I guess in the early 2000s when like Radiohead did like the Kid A, and like there was all this stuff about how rock was dead, and it was a bunch of crap, but like there was whole things like rock and roll's dead, this is the thing now, and I think that's how it was like post rock. And so it was all these like kind of ethereal rock bands that still used guitars, but they're playing music that's like more instrumental. And then post punk, of course, was like Joy Division when punk kind of sort of was dead at that point.
Yeah, or like shoegaze. I get the gaze part, but where does the shoe come from?
So I actually figured this out, and
Okay.
for the longest time I never understood what it was. So shoegaze music, I think, and I could be wrong. Of course, this is gonna be like the Jeopardy person. Like, no, you're wrong. I think it's like music that is like it's supposed to be more of like kind of like, so it's like when you're at a show or something. Like I feel like an idiot now that I'm saying this, but you're at a show and you're like kind of just staring down at your shoes and kind of like rocking back and forth.
Okay,
So
okay,
like,
I get
that's where,
behind
like,
that.
the shoegaze like sound or like culture kind of comes from.
Yeah.
Maybe I think that's what it is.
I mean, that makes the most sense of anything I've ever
Because you're
heard.
gazing at your shoes.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of looking down instead of like, so it's people who are, it's like music that maybe is like a little more introspective or something. It's like not as like, like the indie shoegaze bands or like bands where you're just kind of sitting there, just kind of like with your head down, like,
Yeah,
like
it's
kind of
atmospheric-y,
Yeah.
dreamy. Okay,
so I think that's what it means.
Okay.
I don't know.
I get behind that. I get
we
behind
could,
that.
we're going to Google this later and it's going to be something.
Urban Dictionary it.
Yeah.
I do not support that statement. No, I have no clue. That sounds good to me.
I guess, yeah.
I like it. I like it. Well, anything else you guys want to plug? I really appreciate you guys coming in.
Oh, no, absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this has been fun.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just follow us because I think we're going to try to put together a Halloween show.
That'll be super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think we always like try to do something on Halloween. Like, of course, last year we released a music video, and because we're big fans of horror and all that stuff. So we want to try to do like a Halloween show this year. So we're working on getting one booked. We don't really have a plan in mind right now, but so keep peeled for that, and then
And for some new music coming
Yeah.
out hopefully within the next couple months.
And your website, just follow shadowrabbits.com,
Uh-huh.
and then it links out to all your social media.
yeah. So it just has all of our social media links on there, and
Very cool. Well, guys, thanks again for coming in.
Yeah,
really
thank
appreciate
you
it.
for having us.
Absolutely.
First podcast.
yeah.